Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bakar Banu Mechol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Bless the Lord, the Blessed One. Blessed is the Lord, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Amen.
Parasha 3, beginning with Genesis 12. Now Adonai said to Avram, "Get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen and away from your father's house, and go to the land I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse anyone who curses you, and by you all the families of the earth will be blessed." So Avram went, as Adonai had said to him, and Lot went with him. Avram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Avram took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, and all his possessions which they had accumulated, as well as the people they had acquired in Haran. Then they set out for the land of Canaan and entered the land of Canaan. Avram passed through the land to the place called Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. The Canaanite were then in the land. Adonai appeared to Avram and said, "To your descendants I will give this land." So he built an altar there to Adonai, who had appeared to him. He left that place, went to the hill east of Bethel, and pitched his tent. With Bethel to the west and Ai to the east, he built an altar there and called on the name of Adonai. Then Avram traveled on, continuing toward the Negev. But there was a famine in the land, so Avram went down into Egypt to stay there, because the famine in the land was severe. When he came close to Egypt and was about to enter, he said to Sarai, his wife, "Here now, I know that you are a good-looking woman, so that when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife,' and kill me, but keep you alive. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well with me for your sake, and so that I will stay alive because of you." When Avram entered Egypt, the Egyptians did notice that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's princes saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. He treated Avram well for her sake, giving him sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But Adonai inflicted great plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Avram's wife. Pharaoh called Avram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her to be my own wife? Now therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go away." So Pharaoh gave orders concerning him to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Avram went up from Egypt, he, his wife, and everything he had, and Lot with him into the Negev. Avram became wealthy with much cattle, silver, and gold. As he went on his travels from the Negev, he came to Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, where he had first built the altar, and there Avram called on the name of Adonai. Lot, who was traveling with Avram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land could not support their living together because their possessions were too great for them to remain together. Moreover, quarreling arose between Avram's and Lot's herdsmen. The Canaanite and the Perizzite were then living in the land. Avram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours, since we're kinsmen. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Please separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked up and saw the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered everywhere before Adonai destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Adonai, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. So Lot chose all the plain of the Jordan for himself, and Lot traveled eastward. Thus they separated themselves from each other. Avram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, setting up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, committing great sins against Adonai. Adonai said to Avram, after Lot had moved away from him, "Look all around the land you see." Look all around you from where you are, to the north, the south, the east, and the west. All the land you see I will give to you and your descendants, to your seed, forever. And I will make your descendants as numerous as the specks of dust on the earth, so that if a person can count the specks of dust on the earth, then your descendants can be counted. Get up and walk through the length and breadth of the land, because I will give it to you. Avram moved his tent and came to live by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. There he built an altar to Adonai. When Amraphel was king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elazar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, they made war together against Bera, the king of Sodom, and against Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinahav, king of Admah, Shemever, king of Tziboim, and the king of Bela, which is the same as Zoar. All the latter kings joined forces in the Siddim Valley, where the Dead Sea is. They had served Kedorlaomer 12 years, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtrod Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in Shava Kiryataim, and the Hori at Seir, their mountain, all the way to El Paran by the desert. Next they turned back, came to Ain Mishpat, which is the same as Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amaleki and also the Emori who lived in Hatzazon Hamar. Then the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela came out and arrayed themselves for battle in the Siddim Valley against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Admah, and Arioch, king of Elazar. 4 kings against the 5. Now the Siddim Valley was full of clay pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, while the rest fled to the hills. The victors took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food supply. Then they left. But as they left, they took Lot, Avram's brother's son, and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Someone who had escaped came and told Avram the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Emori, brother of Eshcol, and had been taken captive. Did I read that correctly? I think I'll go back. Someone who had escaped came and told Avram the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Emori, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, all of them allies of Avram. When Avram heard that his nephew had been taken captive, He led out his trained men who had been born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, he and his servants divided his forces against them, then attacked and pursued them all the way to Hova, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his nephew Lot with his goods, together with the women and the other people. After his return from slaughtering Kedorlaomer and the kings with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Sheva Valley, also known as the King's Valley. Melchizedek, king of Shalom, brought out bread and wine. He was Cohen of El Elyon, God Most High. So he blessed him with these words: Blessed be Avram by El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth. And blessed be El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. Avram gave him a tenth of everything. The king of Sodom said to Avram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. But Avram answered the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to Adonai, El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal thong of anything that is yours, so that you won't be able to say, I made Avram rich. I will take only what my troops have eaten and the share of the spoil belonging to the men who came with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share. Chapter 15. Sometime later, the word of Adonai came to Avram in a vision. Don't be afraid, Avram. I am your protector. Your reward will be very great. Avram replied, Adonai God, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless and Eliezer from Damascus inherits my possessions? You haven't given me a child. Avram continued, so someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Adonai came to him, this man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. Then he brought him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if you can count them. Your descendants will be that many. He believed in Adonai, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Then he said to him, I am Adonai, who brought you out from Ur Kasdim to give you this land as your possession. He replied, Adonai God, how am I to know that I will possess it? He answered him, bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. Should be 4. He brought him all these, cut the animals in 2, and placed the pieces opposite each other. But he didn't cut the bird in half. Birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Avram drove them away. As the sun was about to set, a deep sleep fell on Avram. Horror and great darkness came over him. Adonai said to Avram, know this for certain. Your descendants will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs. They will be slaves and held in oppression there 400 years. But I will also judge the nation, that nation, the one that makes them slaves. Afterwards, they will leave with many possessions. As for you, you will join your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. Only in the 4th generation will your descendants come back here, because only then will the Emori be ripe for punishment. After the sun had set, there was a thick darkness. A smoking fire pot and a flaming torch appeared, which passed between these animal parts. That day Adonai made a covenant with Avram. I have given this land to your descendants, from the Valley of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River, the territory of the Keni, the Kenizi, the Kadmoni, the Hittite, the Perizzi, the Rephaim, the Emori, the Canaani, the Girgashi, and the Yebusi. Chapter 16. Now Sarai, Avram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. So Sarai said to Avram, "Here now, Adonai has kept me from having children. Go in and sleep with my slave girl. Maybe I'll be able to have children through her." Avram listened to what Sarah said. It was after Avram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Avram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to Avram, her husband, to be his wife. Avram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she conceived. But when she became aware that she was pregnant, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarai said to Avram, "This outrage being done to me is your fault. True, I gave my slave girl to you to sleep with, but when she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me in contempt. May Adonai decide who is right, I or you." However, Avram answered Sarai, "Look, she's your slave girl. Deal with her as you think fit." Then Sarai treated her so harshly that she ran away from her. The angel of Adonai found her by a spring in the desert, the spring on the road to Shur, and said, "Hagar, Sarai's slave girl, where have you come from and where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai." The angel of Adonai said to her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority." The angel of Adonai said to her, "I will greatly increase your descendants. There will be so many that it will be impossible to count them." The angel of Adonai said to her, "Look, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to call him Yishmael." God pays attention, because God has paid attention to your misery. "He will be a wild donkey of a man, with his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, living his life at odds with all his kinsmen." So she named Adonai, who had spoken with her, El Roi, God of seeing, because she said, "I have really seen the one who sees me and stayed alive." This is why the well has been called Be'er Lahai Roi, well of the one who lives and sees. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Avram a son, and Avram called the son whom Hagar had born Yishmael. Avram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Yishmael to Avram. Chapter 17. When Avram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Avram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly." Avram fell on his face, and God continued speaking with him. "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Avram, exalted father, but your name will be Avraham, father of many, because I have made you the father of many nations. I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant, to be God for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God." God said to Abraham, "As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins. This will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household and those bought from a foreigner not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person bought with your money must be circumcised. Thus my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, because he has broken my covenant. God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you are not to call her Sarai, mockery. Her name is to be Sarah, princess. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of people will come from her. At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael could live in your presence. God answered, no, but Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you are to call him Yitzchak, laughter. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzchak, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. With that, God finished speaking with Abraham and went up from him. Abraham took Ishmael his son, all the slaves born in his house, and all who had been bought with his money, every male among the people in Abraham's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that very day, just as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were circumcised on the same day, and all the men of his household, both slaves born in his house and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaya olam nata batukenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Amen.